For more than 2000 years, China was ruled by a series of imperial dynasties, powerful families passing thrones from one generation to the next. The last dynasty in China was the Qing dynasty. By the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the country suffered from instability, corruption, foreign invasions, and widespread poverty. Reform efforts failed, and the imperial system was seen as outdated by many revolutionaries. Discontented army units, along with revolutionary groups, launched an uprising in Wushang. The revolt spread quickly to other parts of China. Within weeks, 15 of 24 provinces declared independence from the Qing Empire.
The primary cause was the advent and onslaught of imperialism, Western imperialism first, and then Japanese imperialism. The government, the dynastic government, the Manchu government, had very little resources for themselves because much of it was taken away by the colonial powers. They did not rule China, but big parts of China were under their control. So, and then because of that, because of lack of resources, the government did not have enough money for welfare activities or for development growth. And whatever little they had to spend. They have to do a lot of military spending because there were rebellions and revolts all over, small and big.
And revolutionaries demanded a new form of government. Then came Sun Yat-sen, considered as the father of the nation in China. He led the revolutionary movement from exile. On 1st of January 1912, representatives of independent provinces elected Sun Yat-sen as provisional president of the new Republic of China. A commemorative calendar from 1912 displays the five-color flag and Sun Yat-sen's portrait, marking the historic shift from monarchy to republic. But there was a problem. Sun Yat-sen's revolutionary government did not have a strong army. So, to avoid the civil war, he agreed to transfer the presidency to Yuan Shikai, a commander in the Qing army. In exchange for becoming the provisional president, Shikai forced the abdication of the Qing throne. The early republic was unstable. Yuan Shikai tried to rule as a new emperor, but was soon forced out. Civil authority was weak. Generals and warlords controlled different regions of China. This led to years of chaos and division. Sun Yat-sen once again appeared, and then came the nationalist unification under his party, the Kuomintang, with leaders like Chiang Kai-shek who sought to reunify China after years of warlord rule. During this time, intellectuals got inspired by Marxist ideas and the communist revolution in Russia. There was a surge in radical thought and the study of communism among students and young intellectuals. Dispersed communist activists united into a national party called Chinese Communist Party. This included 12 representatives, including Zhang Dushu, Li Dazhao, Mao Zedong, and others. Zhang Dushu was chosen as the CCP's first general secretary. With the support of the CCP, Sun Yat-sen's KMT launched the expedition and unified most of China under its central government in Nanjing. But the unity between the nationalist KMT and communist CCP was short-lived. In 1927, Chiang Kai-shek launched a purge of communist and leftist, known as the Shanghai Massacre. The communists under leaders like Mao Zedong fled to the countryside and began building their own bases using guerrilla tactics. For the next decade, the CCP and KMT fought battles for control, with the CCP focusing on peasant mobilization and rural uprisings. In 1934, KMT forces encircled Mao Zedong's Red Army. About 86,000 soldiers and thousands of civilian supporters broke through the weakest points in the nationalist lines. Mao Zedong then took on the grueling Long March, a 6,000-mile retreat across China to escape destruction. Only a small fraction survived, but it was during the Long March that Mao Zedong emerged as the unchallenged leader of the CCP, consolidating his reputation and authority.
China at that time was very unstable. There was no one government really ruling the country. The country was divided, among a large number of so-called warlords. And of course, there was a government in Beijing, and Chiang Kai-shek was, was there the most powerful person. But the communists succeeded. Of course, it took them time to succeed. They were, in an area called Shan, which is, mountainous, and it was easy for them, for the guerrillas to hide there. And then guerrilla tactics finally helped them defeat, all their enemies. First, the Japanese, but that was, of course, later. But when when they had set up the base area in Shan, then the Kuomintang army, the Chiang Kai-shek's army, made 3 or 4 attempts to, destroy them, but they didn't succeed because, because of guerrilla tactics. They were hiding, with the local people, and local people gave them support. And the Kuomintang was using, Chiang Kai-shek's army was using conventional, methods to fight them. And then, of course, they had to finally, when they were really, encircled by the opponents, the Kuomintang army, they managed to find a route and reached northern China region called Yan'an, where they again settled down, and they were able to, practice many of their policies which they had, announced. And meanwhile, it took a lot of time for the Kuomintang couldn't actually reach that area. And of course, instability helped them to move, otherwise any government would have, any stable government would have been able to deal with them.
The communists got peasant support and scored major victories. By late 1949, the communist forces had swept through most of mainland China. Chiang Kai-shek and the remaining nationalist government retreated to the island of Taiwan. On October 1st, 1949, Mao Zedong stood atop Tiananmen Gate and proclaimed the founding of the People's Republic of China, marking the communist victory and the start of a new era on the mainland. He declared, "The Chinese people have stood up." Mao Zedong was a son of a peasant. He was born in 1893 in Shaoshan village in Hunan province to a family of relatively affluent farmers. Mao Zedong grew up working on his family's farm, but always sought more than rural life could offer. From a young age, he rebelled against his strict father and rejected an arranged marriage. Mao's mind was shaped by classic Chinese novels about warrior heroes and tales of rebellion. In his teens, he left home, pursued further studies, and became fascinated with revolutionary ideas and political change.
Had a fight with his father and left home because his father was opposed to his studying. He wanted him to be a farmer. So one day he was caught reading a book, and then when he went home, his father beat him very badly. So he left home, and after that, many years later, he went back to his, hometown, to his village. So his experience was, of course, different from that of Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping was mainly in the, urban area, and Xi Jinping's father was, Xi Chung-sun, I think that was his name. Yeah, he was with the Communist Party, and he was purged during the Cultural Revolution. So Xi Jinping saw all that. Whereas Mao's experience was very, very different. He came, China was, the Communist Party was nowhere there. He moved to, the capital of Hunan and somehow managed to get himself educated. Much of that story is not known to the world. So then, of course, he was trained as a library, in library science. He joined Beijing University Library. And then, when the Communist Party was formed, he became part of it.
The 1911 revolution, which toppled the Qing dynasty, inspired Mao Zedong to briefly join the Revolutionary Army as a private soldier and not in active combat. During the Long March, Mao's leadership was tested, and he emerged as the top leader of the communist movement. During the Long March, Mao Zedong rebuilt his power, forging bonds with loyal comrades. Among them was Xi Jinping, a senior commander, and Xi Jinping's father. Born in 1953, Xi Jinping grew up among China's elite. Son of senior Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping, he was living in luxury. But Mao Zedong's rule was ruthless, even to his own allies. Mao Zedong purged many during the Cultural Revolution, a decade-long mass campaign against enemies. He enforced communist ideology and transformed society by targeting intellectuals and political rivals through widespread violence. Xi Jinping's father was also denounced, imprisoned, and vanished from politics. Mao declared, "The revolution is not a dinner party."
The Communist Party already existed when Xi Jinping was growing up, but of course, his father's, the experience that, the treatment that was meted out to his father made him, probably made him strong, made him believe that, leaders can get away with anything. And so if and when he becomes a leader, he'll be able to get away with anything and everything. And that's what is happening in China now.
All of a sudden, teenage Xi Jinping went from palaces to poverty. He fled to the countryside, endured years of farm labor and political suspicion. When Mao Zedong died in 1976, a power struggle broke out at the highest levels of leadership. Mao was succeeded by Hua Guofeng, who took over all the formal roles of leadership. But he faced opposition from Mao's wife, Jiang Qing, and 3 of her allies. But because of the violence during the Cultural Revolution, all of them were arrested and purged. Posters at the time portrayed them as traitors. The 4 eventually went on trial, and the courtroom drama played out on TV. All of them were jailed for life. Jiang Qing hanged herself in a hospital bathroom, where she had been released to on medical grounds in 1991. But Hua, who took over the power, was himself usurped by Deng Xiaoping. Deng Xiaoping took control, opening up the battered country. He encouraged reform, pushing China toward modernization with the famous slogan, "It doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice." Xi Jinping quietly returned, starting his career in tiny towns and provinces, firstly as a humble village party secretary and then steadily climbing through the ranks. In places like Zhengding and Fujian, Xi Jinping built a reputation for discipline and order. Xi's rise in China's secret Politburo, the machinery of power, was a breakthrough. You see, at the top of China's political system sits the Politburo, the leadership council of the Chinese Communist Party. Even more powerful is its inner circle, the Politburo Standing Committee, usually just 7 men. No elections for president as in the West. Top leaders are chosen behind closed doors by party elders and loyalists. Xi Jinping entered this inner sanctum in 2007. By 2008, he became vice president and in 2010, vice chairman of the Central Military Commission. And by 2012 emerged as General Secretary, China's most powerful post. He was elected by the National People's Congress in March 2013, formalizing his control over the state. Once in control, Xi Jinping set out to bring everything under his command. The media, the military, the internet, the courts all would answer to the party, and the party answered to Xi. Xi launched sweeping anti-corruption purges, eliminating rivals and consolidating loyalty. He changed term limits in 2018, meaning he could rule for life if he wished, just like Mao Zedong.
Xi Jinping, his inspiration is Mao, which is rather strange. And he believes that, he alone understands China's problem and he doesn't trust anybody else really. And therefore, this one-man rule is, is getting institutionalized in China. And to make China a better place, in his opinion, he first decided to fight corruption. While fighting corruption, he removed many senior, party and army officials from power. So one reason why he wants to stay on in power is that if he leaves power, then all these people and the followers, who have been affected by, his policy of purges, may get back on him. So it won't be his life will become really. I mean, they may kill him also. They may declare him as a criminal and persecute him. So he has to remain there because he's antagonized too many people, as a party chief.
Mao, Deng, and Xi all crushed opposition and censored dissent. Mao Zedong once said, "Let 100 flowers bloom, let 100 schools of thought contend." But when he was criticized, his response was unforgiving. Deng was the same. He quashed the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests. Thousands demanding freedom met with tanks and tragedy. Officially, the subject was erased from Chinese books and media. And now, under Xi Jinping, censorship is even stricter. Social media is monitored, dissent is silenced in Hong Kong, Tibet, and Xinjiang. Journalists, even celebrities, vanish if they cross the red line. During COVID-19, rare protests spread, and Xi Jinping faced public anger. Yet, the iron grip stayed. Under Mao Zedong, there was economic chaos, famine, and industry experiments that failed. Under Deng's era, there were factories, foreign investment, and millions were lifted out of poverty. And under Xi, there came massive growth, but with heavy government intervention. Technology, green energy, and superfast trains, but more state control. Trade wars and global tensions shaped the new economy. Promises of one country, two systems in Hong Kong faded as Xi Jinping cracked down on protests and imposed stricter new laws. China claims Taiwan as its own. Xi insists reunification must be fulfilled. There are heavy security and tight restrictions in Tibet, and millions of Uyghurs in Xinjiang face internment, surveillance, and re-education, called by Xi as fighting extremism. The United Nations calls it human rights abuse. In China, power is risky. Many top leaders mysteriously disappear, die suddenly, or are purged. Mao's rivals, Deng's challengers, and Xi's critics. Xi Jinping has only one goal, one party, one leader, one vision for China's future. For critics, he is China's most powerful and controlling leader since Mao Zedong. For supporters, he restored pride and power. But one thing that history has shown time and again is this. In China, power comes at a big price.
Well, anybody who has tried to, predict anything in China has failed miserably, right? So I wouldn't predict anything really, but what I will say is that from the trend, it seems that Xi's popularity is gradually going down. When he till 2018 during his first term, he was fairly popular, but later on, particularly after declaring that or changing the constitution, removing the provision of 2 terms, 2 terms for a president, he became unpopular, first amongst the elite, the intellectuals, and then among others also, because they feel that, a change in leadership is required to bring in new life. And if he continues for another, 10, 15, 20 years, still he is alive, China's, the Chinese system will not change much. So this is the reason why, they are not too much in favor of Xi Jinping, and as I said, the educated class much more than the others.
What do you think how long Xi Jinping will rule China for? Drop your comments down below.